It's official. My neighbors upstairs hate me because this is the fifth or sixth take of this video, and yeah, they're probably wondering why I do so many takes and just whatever. Anyhow, what's going on, guys? It's Phoenix. Couple quick things. New glasses, yay. Really like these. They're a lot more subtle than my last pair, which weren't even that loud, but my last pair had a tendency to glow in photos, especially when photos were taken after dark, which sounds weird. Get your minds out of the gutter. I'm looking at you. And the flash on whatever camera, be it a phone like mine or whatever, was on. I think to a photo that was taken of me and my sister from my sister's wedding, or rather the night before dinner thing. And yeah, that pair of glasses is glowing in that photo, which things you can't control. Anyhow, other thing I really want to touch on fairly quickly, Masterpiece Ratchet. I'm leaving that in. Masterpiece Ratchet. He's awesome, with the stipulation that if you like Ironhide, you will like Ratchet. If you don't like Ironhide, and if you're a certain reviewer who does not like Masterpiece Ironhide and puts him at the back of your Masterpiece shelf because he's not the exact head picture of the animation model that you have in your mind, you won't like Ratchet. Or if you have the mindset where all of Ironhide's flaws are completely and utterly egregious and detrimental to the figure and are the worst thing ever, you will not like Ratchet, rather. So, that said, I thoroughly enjoy Ratchet. I actually realized pretty quickly after Ironhide came out that I didn't have Ratchet on pre-order, so I pre-ordered Ratchet. Wasn't the smartest decision, but no regrets because literally everything that I've gotten recently has been a Masterpiece figure. And yeah, so on to the main point of this video. So, in my last video, I showed off this guy. Basically, I don't want to say my biggest grail, but probably my most sought after one, I will put it that way. This is Beast Wars Rampage. And literally, I have wanted this figure since I started collecting. And since I started doing reviews and other content. So, not about, when did I start? 08? So, about 8 years, I've wanted this figure. Because I grew up with Beast Wars, and in my opinion, the story between Rampage here and Depth Charge, and as a side note, I would have Depth Charge in the frame here too, even though he's also huge, but he's at my mom's place, and I don't have the space for him here, and I don't want to have him in storage. The story between Depth Charge and Rampage was one of the highlights of like the last 2/3 of Beast Wars. It was just really well fleshed out, really well done for a story that got off to a somewhat rocky start and seemed fairly, I don't want to say pointless, and like kind of one note at the beginning, but let's be honest, it kind of did. Because up until Depth Charge got more of the mindset of, okay, I will also help the Maximals while looking for and destroying Protoform X or Rampage, that entire arc was like, I have to destroy and find Protoform X. It's a horrible impression of Rampage, or of Depth Charge, but I don't really care. But yeah, I don't know. Considering that I grew up with Beast Wars, I've just always loved the story between and characterization of Depth Charge and Rampage here. And for whatever reason, Depth Charge here always went for just a little bit out of my price range when I started collecting, or just fell by the wayside when I started being a more active collector and getting other things, because he was always going for around 60-ish bucks. I think the lowest I ever saw him for before actually getting him was 45 on the aftermarket. And with so much on the market and on the secondary market right now in terms of transforming pieces of plastic, Rampage just kind of fell on the the furthest back of back burners. He didn't really become a holy grail per se. To be honest, I don't even know what my holy grail is now, but he definitely was an achievable grail. So when I picked up Rampage here, when I saw him at Steel City Con here in Pittsburgh a few weeks ago for under $30, as I mentioned in my last video, you best believe that I jumped right on getting him. And I have zero regrets. Rampage, oh god, it makes me so happy that I have Rampage. Now, he's not complete. He's in amazing condition, which to me says he was in a collector's home, and why that collector parted with Rampage here for half of what he goes for on the secondary market blows my mind, and I think is a little ridiculous, but I'm not complaining because I've wanted this figure for so long, basically since my childhood. Lost my train of thought. Oh, he's not complete. He's missing his missiles for his cannon here. And I realize I probably have this section down here, and thus the arms and the crab legs mistransformed. I don't really care, though. I honestly just didn't really study how this section all folds up when I first transformed him to robot mode, because when I picked him up at the con, he was in crab mode, because it's just easier to transport him that way, I guess. But yeah, no, what Rampage really signifies to me, and this is something that I initially did a video on before I went out of town for my sister's wedding, and then thought about even more when I was at her wedding and the festivities around that during downtime, because I hadn't really brought Rampage with me just because he's a fairly hefty figure and I wanted to just have some smaller figures to fiddle around with when I had downtime, is the importance of having Grails. Rampage, to me, up until when I got him a few weeks ago, really was that thing to kind of constantly be on the lookout for, to strive to get at some point. And the fact that I had that really kept me going at times as a collector. I mean, there's been times when I've thought about dropping out of this hobby. Very briefly, to be completely honest. And I'll be honest, there's friends that I have now that say, Zach, you're a collector, why do you have a page for that that's separate from your real-life Facebook? And that's just a thing that I do. It's also why I'm not that active on Facebook. Sorry. It just, guess it comes with the territory. Can you tell I'm rambling? Jeez. But yeah, no, so Grails, be it like Holy Grails, a figure that you really drinking game, seriously want, or just a figure that you have as more like an achievable benchmark of a Grail, Grails give us something to consistently look forward to getting at some point. And in a very oversaturated transforming toy market, that's kind of refreshing because it keeps that spark, no pun intended, going. At least for me as a collector. The fact that there will always be a figure out there like Rampage who's a more achievable Grail for me, or that there will be a Holy Grail figure for me at some point. Again, as I think I've already said, I don't really know what my Holy Grail figure is right now, or if I actually have one. I know for a lot of people it's like a G1 figure that they never had. I don't really have that much of an attachment to any of the G1 figures because I didn't grow up with G1. And I wouldn't even say that Rampage here was a Holy Grail for me. He was a figure that I wanted for some time and just never got around to getting. He was an achievable, kind of like a mid-range Grail, if that makes sense. So Grails, and this kind of again ties into the whole psychology of toy figure appreciation thing that I mentioned a few videos back, and I realize I'm showing his underside a lot, whatever. There's a really fascinating, from a mental standpoint, thing about that drive, if you will, that mindset of, okay, at some point I will get this figure. Or I will get this thing that I really want, that I am really looking forward to, that I've been wanting for some time. Because when you ultimately get that in hand, it's really satisfying. Now, again, I've only fiddled with Rampage here maybe 2 or 3 times since I got him. But that's just because I've been swamped with other things. that said, I am still completely over the moon that I have Rampage here. And it legitimately still blows my mind that I got what for me was a Grail figure that I had been wanting to get. So, the whole concept of having Grails and Grail type figures that you really want but haven't ever gotten around to getting, or even Holy Grails, is a little bit more fascinating to me now that I have one of my more achievable ones in hand. And honestly, I think Rampage was like one of my more prominent and one of my bigger achievable grails, if that makes sense. Um, I honestly don't even remember what my last achievable grail of a figure was. Um, because it's been a while since I've like actually mentally characterized a figure that I can't get around to getting, but want to at some point as an achievable grail. So, yeah. But super happy I have Rampage. I'm gonna pose a question to you all. Feel free to answer it in comments, whatever. I want to know what your grails are. Be they more like achievable ones that you want to get at some point down the road, like at a convention or whatever, or just when you have a little bit more money to get them, or even a holy grail, like the figure that you ultimately want to get at the end of the day, because that will signify just something awesome to you, that you had worked towards getting it, and you finally got around to getting your holy grail. So I want to know what your guys' grail figures are, be it any like holy grails that you have, or just more like achievable grails, if you will. Kind of a, I guess, a hierarchy of sorts. Anyhow, my throat is getting all kind of dry and whatever, so I'm going to end this video. And yeah, so thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one of these, whatever I do, whenever I put it up. And thanks for watching me gesticulate with Rampage here for 11-ish minutes, or however long. And yeah, so I'll see you guys in the next one.